Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, my very special guest is Matt from the YouTube channel Quantum of Conscience. Many will know Matt from his previous channel, Texas Shrugged. I caught up with Matt via the telephone, and what follows is our conversation where we touch on a wide variety of topics. And so, without further ado, here's Matt. Well, folks, we're going to have a great show today. Matt McKinley from Quantum of Conscience is going to be with us. And Matt, your former channel was Texas Shrugged, and I'm going to mention that because I know a lot of folks were very familiar with your previous channel. I was one of those. I used to post a lot of your material up on the blog, and I'm posting a lot of your material up on your new channel, up on the blog these days. And so it's a pleasure to have you to come on the show because you speak from the heart. And that resonates with a lot of folks. And you bring up a lot of topics that are very frank and very honest. And I know it's a breath of fresh air, especially with all of the, the repetitive types of things that we hear in the truth community and the alternative research community. After a while, it just numbs your head. So I like to consider myself, too, to be just a regular guy, just talking about stuff. And that's how you come across to me. So I'm really glad I got you. Yeah, no, I'm really glad I got you to come onto the show. Matt, what about your journey coming into the work that you're doing? Now, I watched a show where you spoke about the fact that you did come from the corporate world, as I did, and so you made your way to doing the things you're doing today. So did you want to fill us in a little bit on what that journey was like?
Sure. Absolutely. I was in the matrix my entire life, corporate life, 10-state territory. For years I would watch the news. 9/11 was real. It was 19 hijackers. And I saw the world exactly like I kind of criticize others who can't see it today. Or I guess I shouldn't call them zombies if I myself was a zombie for so long. But it is amazing to me how many people that I talk to in these circles, like now my buddy Greg at Exploring the Rabbit Hole, we talk hours every week, and he and others say like how they've been critical of things going back to elementary school. And a lot of people in this community are like that, but I was a full zombie. I mean, I remember my cousin, coming back shortly after 9/11 and saying, well, the reason the towers just went to nothing or just went to dust was that it produced the force of a nuclear bomb. And I bought it. I go, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, it was 9/11 and the stuff that came out on YouTube between 2009 and 2010 or so that really started to open my eyes. 9/11 absolutely was the entree to understanding the world is not anything like anybody thinks it is. And that was the entree for a lot of people. And there are theories, bizarre, around two-corner theories, that some of those mistakes, obvious mistakes that were put into that script were put there on purpose for people like us to wake up to it, which is bizarre, but those types of ideas need to be left on the table. So I was always in the insurance business and still have my own business, and for years working at home, I'd put the YouTube on, watch videos, and I just became like a reality junkie. Absorbing, for what I do, a lot of written stuff with clients living overseas. I could just have this stuff on the background, and hour after hour after hour, and I guess that's not particularly healthy, but this is, every time I turned found a different aspect of reality, it started to break down.
Yeah.
So it was 9/11, and then we get into the fake shootings, like, what? And then you look at the history we're presented, in every single area I looked into started to break down, like wasn't real. And then it became almost like ridiculous to me what's being presented in a lot of these areas. So it just, a couple of videos I made recently, I'm saying, whenever you think you've gone far, you've never gone far enough. It's bizarre. So I started the Texas Shrugged YouTube channel. Back then, YouTube was more amenable to putting in music and graphics, and I was playing around with my Mac and spending a lot of time, and I enjoyed doing it, that creative side, putting videos together and music. I didn't know I was good at it, but I was good at it, and I combined it with truth, and that's why I was able to get up to about 19 or close to 20,000 subscribers under Texas Shrugged. But then our friend Chris Hurst of the Virginia reporter shooting, Allison Parker, Vester Lee Flanagan, everybody probably knows the story.
Yep.
He's now, I guess, elected representative at the Virginia State House, and apparently his people found my Virginia is not really for lovers set of videos about that farce event. And that event is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Every aspect
Absolutely,
of it.
Yep.
The man comes forth 3 hours after, won't get into, all this, but I don't want to get you flagged or whatever. We should probably call him, change the name up so the Google algorithm flash on it. Just as long as we don't put it in the description or the title. I guess we still have, they tell us we still have freedom of speech, so I guess we should just, assume we still do. But, no, his people started flagging my videos. I got all sorts of strikes, and I was saying things like, well, how could a scholarship fund be established 3 hours after her death when, most big universities like JMU move slower than City Hall? So I started they just went after me and they shut me down. Almost every flag or strike I got was on the Virginia stuff.
Is that right? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Because I know I was wondering what happened because I was putting your stuff up on the blog, and then all of a sudden, boom, you were gone. And
I'll be honest with people. I took myself down because I was one strike away, and I couldn't post. I was locked out.
Yep.
So why would I wait for them to torture me? In other words, I don't want a future client going to Texas Shrugged, and for 19 years it's locked and says this person violated all of our terms and this person's so I took it down. Well, of course that's where it was going. I was weeks away, so why shouldn't I hit the delete key and at least could take it down myself? But I had weeks anyway. So what's the difference? I know there were some other channels, like the old Barry Soetoro channel that was locked, and it said like, this person's violated all of our rules, and I was like, I don't want clients to see that. Yeah. So it's the same either way. But I'm very honest. I took myself down at 11:59. But what's the difference? And then I figured I just got out of it for 6, 7, 8 months. Started to take notes and do different things and make a few kind of. Actually, I put a lot of these clips together and put them on DVD. I said, anything happens to the computer, I want to back all this stuff up. So I spent months doing that, putting, all the clips on DVD, not selling anything, of course, but just having them as back up and, giving them to a friend to store and things like that, just in case anything ever happened to the computer. Then I did, I couldn't be quiet, and I started Quantum of Conscience. And most of my subscribers, I guess, it's like around 10,000. But it's been, most 6,000 or 7,000 people probably were familiar with the old channel and came across. The slowness of my subscriber base is, I think that's a mark of legitimacy. These channels that just go to 50,000 subs, you go, really? I'm a little skeptical when people race up to these large numbers.
Yeah, I am too. I've been in business, Matt, for a little over 4 years, and I have 10,000 subscribers, and I put a lot of work into the channel. I try to get very good guests, quality guests with quality material, and it's just 10,000 subscribers. So I'm with you. These channels that skyrocket with 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 subscribers. I don't know how that gets done.
And especially if it happens quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could talk about the channel specifically. I don't know if you ever wanted to go there, but I'm here to, I'm just a regular guy. I have no insider information. I'm not from another dimension. I'm just a regular guy that I have two things going for me. I learned to read the Matrix code. I can sniff out bullshit as well as anyone, and then I can describe it back to people in a way that they can understand. That is my role in this, what we want to call, truth movement. I can sniff the bullshit and explain it back to people. I have nothing other than that.
No, and that's all you need, Matt. That's all you need. I wanted to circle back for a moment back to this Chris Hurst guy, and that was Allison Parker. That was the reporter, right?
Yeah, Allison Parker, Vester Lee Flanagan. They always have three names.
Yeah, like Lee Harvey Oswald, right?
Lee Harvey Oswald and all the others. Dylan Storm Roof. Everybody has three names. But yeah, it was the I forget the year on that, but that was also just ridiculous.
He looks like he also got an anchor job at that channel also afterwards. So then he got, like you said, he got elected to political office. And they really, when I say they, I'm talking about the controllers, they really do not like us talking about these staged events. I received 2 strikes. One of them they took back, but I was sitting with 2 strikes for a while, and it had to do with Florida, and the other one had to do with Vegas. The Vegas one, I appealed it, they rejected it, and then a week later they reinstated it. Go figure. But
just for talking with someone about it.
We were having a roundtable discussion, and we were talking about, in Vegas, we were talking about the events, and I had Sophia Smallstone was on, David Weiss was on, David was looking extensively into it, and Alex Scott, who is he's a police officer. Mm-hmm. And so the 3 of us, well, my 3 guests and myself, the 4 of us, sat down, and we were just talking through it. And we didn't say that people didn't die. We intentionally didn't go there because, we knew that that would probably get the show yanked. So we spoke around that because there were other points that we wanted to get across, namely that these are capstone events and there's a lot of funding behind them from FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. So in any case, the point being is that you can't even present an intelligent conversation or an intelligent dialogue. They don't want that. They don't want people making sense, because if you're making sense, you might wake somebody up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've reached our Virginia threshold in this conversation. We need to move on. We've reached at the Vegas threshold. We need to move on. That is really a pathetic state of affairs. What we were told this country's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people argue with me that, Google, YouTube, they're a private company. They can do whatever they... No, I mean, there are things called public trusts. I mean, what if, everybody back in the day had the Bell, the AT&T, which was the Bell system. If you're over age 40, you remember Atlantic Bell, and you had to get your phone from a regional Bell, and there weren't other providers of phone service. They can't just decide to kick you off. When something becomes, maybe I'm misinterpreting the term a bit, like a public trust, where a certain amount of information is being contributed to a certain amount of millions of people, then you can't claim private once something reaches a certain critical mass of size. See what I'm saying?
Well, it's a public forum. Even though it is a private company that owns it, they have opened themselves up to be a public forum, almost like a public utility in a way. And
so was Bell Atlantic. So was PECO, Philadelphia Electric. You can't just shut my electric off because they don't like what I say. It's the same thing.
And how did they market it? How do they market their platforms? Express yourself, right?
Yeah.
Your opinion counts. I'm paraphrasing here, folks, but these are the types of catchphrases that they would use to market the platforms. And so apparently you can only express yourself the way they want you to express yourself. That's where it is today. In the beginning, you're correct. I mean, we had a lot more leeway and flexibility to be able to talk about things and not have to worry about all the censorship nonsense. The problem I have right now is that Google has censored my blog. Big time. They have turned it off essentially over in Europe.
Wow.
And the thing is, Matt, and you know this, right? The way they go about this is it's very difficult to prove. I mean, you can look at the analytics and you can tell, you can see what's going on, but try to raise the flag on that. Who are you going to raise the flag to? Right.
And then they'll just bury you in search. You'll never come up.
Exactly.
Unless you type in exact phrases. So Google, just in general, I mean, they've screwed over so many people. A part of my business in reaching expatriates that live overseas was a website that's now gone that I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into. And Google one day just changed their analytics, and I went from number 1 to about the 3rd page.
Yeah.
And I checked in with my buddy, who's one of the top SEO people anywhere, and he said, they just screwed everybody over. If you're not a big corporation, and I could get you back to the front page, it would cost you about $300 a month. So I can't do it.
$300 a month?
I mean, that's what it would cost for him to work full time.
Yeah.
To get it back to the front.
Wow.
I mean, where I had done it myself, but they just rearranged. Of course, magically, those rearranged algorithms that rank companies, didn't affect any of the larger corporations, even if their websites were completely screwed up and they didn't even SEO their websites correctly to begin with. So it's just the masters of the universe inside their little sphere move on as controllers of the world, and the rest of us just, once we start climbing on the back of the coattails, we get whipped off the back. I mean, it's just the same story over and over again.
Yeah. Let me ask this question with your corporate background, Matt. Do you look back at it and say, I wasted time there, or do you look at it and say, no, I didn't waste time there because it was something I had to do. It was part of the learning process. And so now it's actually helped me to understand things better as I moved forward and started to dig more and more into the truth. What's your take on that?
Well, that definitely. I mean, you have to be to fully understand it, you have to be on that side. I'm very good. I wasn't good initially because I would get in people's faces about truth, but I think I'm very good now at knowing exactly how to present things in a certain way that get people interested. I understand how to communicate with that side. The other side of it is I'm glad I needed to make money. I needed to, I needed to buy a house. You have to still operate in this system
right.
to a degree. And it is always like the same story with a lot of people in this community. I don't have too many people I deal with in this community that says, I just did $1 million deal today. I don't know, we don't all become homeless in vans, but there's a lot of us that are homeless in vans.
Yep.
If you see what I'm saying. There's a progression of truth. I mean, 10 years ago I was watching Glenn Beck, and 6 or 7 years ago I was watching Alex Jones. And you understand, my term is they're graduated animal farms. They're there to keep you on the farm. They'll present a lot of truth. But I was going to say, related to back, we said with Alex Jones, I just bought the new, Dodge V12 or whatever. Anybody that's that huge with that sort of an empire, there's just no way they're not operating inside the system. The system would have crushed them a long time ago.
No, that's exactly right. It was the same thing with me. The same type of progression. I used to watch a lot of Beck when he was on Fox News years ago. And, he was making some sense back then. I remember him going after George Soros. And
the Beck show on Fox was absolutely a wonderful entry into truth. No, the Fed, Soros. It was for what it was. It was a great show. Now he got a little strange when he went on his own, and he never would go. To me, it always was a graduated animal farm. It was always, they know people are going to break free, so you put them in, you corral them, you pen them, and you give them a ton of truth about the Fed and about George Soros and about the Windsor lineage, and you give them all this truth, so they think that's all there is. So because the system knows that, look, people are going to break free. They're going to see some of these shenanigans. They're not that hard to see anymore. The whole script is breaking down. It's ridiculous. So keep you in a graduated animal farm. Give them a ton of truth, because we're going to give all that away, because there's 3 things we really can't show. We don't want them looking there. And that's the whole point of these graduated animal farms.
Yeah, it is. It's very tiered. And not a lot of people continue to climb the ladder, right? Rung by rung. They'll stay in a certain place, and that's it. That's where they stay. Now, one of the things that resonates with me, you did a show, I guess about 2 weeks ago or so, I could be wrong, but it was very recent, and you were talking about your family, and I guess some of the grief you were catching, I guess from your dad or whatever, and about the things that you believe in, the things that you look into, and the things that you talk about. And I remember watching that particular clip, and I was chuckling to myself, because I have the same type of experience, and it was good to listen to somebody else that was being very straightforward and very frank about what it's like to operate within the family circle when you're essentially the black sheep. So yeah. Has it gotten better for you since you did that video, or was it worse before that video? Because I have to tell you that I really enjoyed watching that one.
Yeah, a couple things there. Our story on that is kind of the same across the board. I don't know anybody that doesn't have that same story about once they start to talk about this sort of thing to family and friends, that they lose a lot of family and friends relationships. They're looked at differently. We all have a similar story in that regard. I don't really expect I will ever change. I didn't go about it. If I just had to give any advice to anybody, I didn't go about it the right way. I certainly would go about it different now. It's more about just asking questions and getting people to think for themselves versus force-feeding information or trying to shove anything down people's throats. And there's a whole, if you become well-versed on any of these topics, you can almost make 3x5 cards for yourself to say, how do you introduce topics in a benign way where they don't think you're kind of force-feeding them?
Yeah.
Like you're at a family picnic and there's 8 humongous trails across the sky, and then those trails are kind of combining to blot out the sun. Uncle Joe, did planes always do? You play dumb. Like, Uncle Joe, did planes always do that? Do you remember planes blocking the sun with their trail? And since this is Southern California, what moisture's in the air that creates that thing? I mean, just kind of ask the question, and that will get a few people thinking. Still won't get most people thinking, but a few people. And I don't know. I mean, they're confused by me. My family, some friends. Oh, Matt was always smart. He was summa cum laude and blah blah blah, and he had this big corporate job. And where did he go bad? When did he go wrong? And because I know that attitude exists, I mean, now I actually present myself as more normal at the family gatherings. Like, I'll dress better than I normally would want to in the sweatshirt, and it must confuse the hell out of him. Well, he doesn't look like he's completely lost his mind, yet we hear all the stuff that he talks about. And President It says he has a YouTube channel that has all this stuff. So we all have similar stories. Mine's just more, a little bit more public, because I had the previous channel had almost 20,000 subscribers and people knew about it.
Yeah, in the beginning, I used to openly try to talk about it because I was believing falsely that my family and friends were just as interested in learning about the truth as I was. So I was thinking, I'm going to share some information that I have here that I was looking into, and God, they're going to love this. Only to find out that it was a debacle. It winds up being, a bad experience. It causes a lot of hard feelings. Becomes a lot of animosity. Sometimes it turns into resentment. And what's happening is people want to believe their world is a certain way. In other words, they've got it in the box and there's a big bow slapped on top of it. And, I've got it all figured out. This is what the world is like. So when you come along and you start to introduce variables and dynamics that are outside what they have in that box, forget about it. Forget it. And I've done the same thing over time. I pulled back and I listen now. And if people start to ask some questions, I will kind of ease into it and see if I can shape the conversation to move it along, a certain way, maybe to get some more awareness of the person or the persons that are asking the question. But the hit them in the head with the ball peen hammer approach. That didn't work out too well.
We all start that way, and we create a ditch that can't be undone, and that, unfortunately, we all kind of start that way. Yeah, and it's hard you can't really take that back. And one of the things I've been doing the last few years, kind of on my own, is I'm really fascinated by the mental defense mechanisms that people employ. So they literally can't. Literally can't see it. I've had people come to me about chemtrails or whatever's coming out of planes and say, I'm not sure they can see it. I mean, we look up and or they see it in a different, and then you get into, the stuff where I'm very interested in what Jack Hart talks about, the matrix reality.
Yeah.
Anybody that talks about Saturn moon matrix, I'm very interested. I've talked with Jeff Dixon, who about reality bubbles.
Yep.
There is, and this is actually in Quantum of Conscience, the book I wrote, and it kind of fits into that's a fiction book. It's not about truth or anything. It's just about fiction, time travel. And one of the scenarios I created to work something out in the book, I created it just to kind of accomplish something. But it's almost like it's proving true. Like, we all carry our own reality bubble, and I guess in everybody's reality bubble, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but there could be a lot of things we carry that is not literally in someone else's reality. I really do believe that this is a possibility, and only like if we interact with some degree of intimacy or eye contact, and even in the book, I was talking about bubbles or spheres intersecting, then one reality can infringe or impinge or whatever can affect the other. And this is not as far-fetched as it seems, because there's almost no way. I used to think, well, it's just people playing mental games, and they just don't want to know about 9/11, and they're all of them just trying to protect their worldview. And although that's most of what it is, because the real world is so scary that the subconscious screams at the frontal lobes to run and hide from the truth.
Yeah.
But there's more to it. I'm convinced there's more to it than simple mental game playing or defense mechanisms.
It's interesting you talked about not being in your reality. So I experience this myself, Matt. As an example, I have a full-time job, right, as a hypnotherapist, and a couple times a year I teach. And so when I teach, I'm gone for a week a shot. And when I'm away and I'm teaching, and that's what I'm focused on, And so what happens is I step away from, I'm not Sage of Quay anymore. And I need a break from that, by the way, folks. Every once in a while. I can't continually do this 24/7. It's just not in the cards. But the point I'm trying to make is when I step away and when I'm doing something else, and it is something else that I love to do. I love to instruct. I love to teach. My reality does change. There are things now that you're focused on. Everything else is kind of excluded and pushed aside. So that's what your focus is right now. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that your reality really is what it is that you're focused on and what you're paying attention to. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, but also when you step out of it, the matrix, in a way, almost could recode you. I mean, when I say matrix, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's it's the machine world, we're in pods, or it's an illusory reality, or it's just not what they say it is. I mean, that's all I know. And I'm a big Mandela affected person. Yep. I've seen people take the download. If I were to get back and now I'm a insurance sales rep and I'm calling on Microsoft and Cisco systems again and all this stuff, it's not just I might fade away from this. It is possible that, like a defrag on a computer, the matrix might start defragging me. That is absolutely a possibility.
You talked about the Mandela effect. I'm going to just touch on that a little bit because I believe the Mandela effect is real. How it's getting done, I don't know, but it is real. So I want to ask you about two people recently that passed away that, in my mind, had already died. And the first one, I guess, was about a year ago or so, was Hugh Hefner. And the second one was recent, was Billy Graham. You have any recollection of any one of those guys dying before they died again?
Not personally, but the Billy Graham is a huge Mandela effect. I've just, I followed that very, very closely. I actually saw a woman who presented, this is years ago, before Billy Graham had just died. She presented, she's like trying to put her cell phone or something into the camera, and it said right on, there was like a screenshot, Billy Graham dies and people at the funeral, and per the Matrix, it's getting jumbled, and Billy Graham was huge. Now the Hefner is not as big, and that one doesn't resonate with me at all. I just don't know what's going on there. But the Billy, it's not a Mandela effect for me, but people that I really trust in the community. I mean, that's just one of the biggest ones of all time, the Billy Graham Mandela effect.
Yeah, I had posed it to a bunch of friends of mine on Facebook, and I have a very close group of friends, very select about who was there. I do a lot of screening. And so when Billy Graham passed away, I put that up there. And I said, okay, guys, before anybody says I'm nuts, does anybody else recall Billy Graham passing away already? And it was amazing to me. I got flooded with responses of people saying yes, they absolutely do. And the one that got me started with the Mandela effect, Matt, and it was before the Mandela effect was really on anybody's radar. It was about 4 years ago, and it was Jack Hart. He had sent me an email, and he said to me, Mike, read this link. And he didn't say anything else. So he didn't say anything about the Mandela effect or any of that stuff. So I read it, and it was about Kirk Douglas and Helen Thomas and Richard Chamberlain. But the two that resonated with me were Kirk Douglas and Helen Thomas. I remember Kirk Douglas dying. I remember watching it on TV. He died in L.A.
Wow.
And I also remember reading about Helen Thomas dying. I was on a business trip, I guess, up in New York, and her face was plastered on the front of the Daily News, or it was the New York Post. when I was reading this article, and they said, some people remember Kirk Douglas dying back, I believe it was the 1990s. And so I'm like, what? He is dead. I remember him dying, So I went to Google, and I said, this is bullshit, I'm going to find that he's dead, and I don't know what this article is all about. What did he send me this link for,
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, and lo and behold, he's alive, and they were saying he was blogging out in L.A. at the time. I guess he was like in his mid-90s or something. So it's very, very strange. It really is a very strange thing.
The weirdest one, because I used to pay a little bit more attention to it than I do now, but the weirdest one, I think if every Mandela-affected person had to vote, I'm sorry to speak on your behalf, but it would be the Shazam Kazam.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't affect everyone, but what's weird about it, the people that swear that Sinbad was in a genie movie, they remember the scenes in the movie, and others corroborate and remember the scenes. See what I'm saying? So that one is in its own class, because it's not Interview with a Vampire, like one letter. They're going, yeah, I remember the scene. He walks in, he does this, he does, oh yeah, I remember that scene. people remember the scenes, and that one is bizarre. That is not a personal anchor effect for me.
Yeah, do you have one that really resonates with you?
Oh, many. Yeah, many.
Yeah.
The movie was called Interview with a Vampire. It's that simple. It's that. I mean, there was a guy that his YouTube channel might have been removed. I forget the name of the channel. He used to break down the fake events with, just to the nth degree, with animation. He was doing an amazing job. He wasn't even a Mandela-affected guy. And he said, I'm going to look into this, the Interview with a Vampire. And he literally did like 30 minutes of residual on Interview with a Vampire. He said, well, this guy, like, he didn't say whether he believed it or not, but he's like, well, then I found this guy who claims to be the biggest fan of all time, and he's an artist. He did a pencil sketch of Louis, the Brad Pitt vampire, and under it he pencils Interview with a Vampire. So the guy who's the biggest fan of all time, who did a pencil sketch as an artist, gets it wrong? I mean, I don't even need to see that. I know what the movie was called. That's a huge anchor effect for me. But people that don't, I found that there's, my community, maybe it's 30% of people are very interested in this, and the other 70% or so go, Matt, get back to the fake government and the fake shooting. Irritated by people that like to talk about it. And I'm sure there's some people listening now that are in the same ballpark. They just don't like the topic, and they're very intolerant of it. And I always found it to be a bit hypocritical. We're supposed to be open-minded, in this community, but you're kind of what they were doing to me when I was making a lot of Mandela Effect videos under Texas Shrugged, they were doing to me what, we say others do to us for our truth beliefs, but anyway.
I get that too. I get people who write me, and they will say, I really like your channel, but I really wish you wouldn't talk about this. And I'm like,
Mandela Effect?
No, it could be something else.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In other words, there's a particular topic, whether it be the Mandela Effect or something else. In my case, they don't like when I talk about Flat Earth. Right? So I've done interviews with people in the Flat Earth community, and mind you, I have 200 and something videos up on my channel, and that particular topic is a small percentage of all the other material I have up there. There's tons and tons of other topics I talk about. And it's just so interesting to me that you talk about something because you want to inquire, you want to do some research, you want to talk to some people who have done research into it, and people will turn around and just be very closed-minded about it. And the other thing I take issue with is I'm out there putting myself out there, and I'm talking about this stuff. And people trying to steer your ship for you, trying to tell you what it is you should talk about because of their personal preferences. You know what I'm saying? Things that they want to hear about. So I always found that dynamic kind of interesting. And I've actually had to tell people, I try to do it in a nice way. Look, if this is something that doesn't ring your bell, then just don't listen to the show. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, why are you sitting there torturing yourself?
I could see somebody saying that to me, but the very nature of what you're trying to do there is you go a variety of different topics. You're trying to see a variety of perspectives. That's what you do.
Right.
So it doesn't make any sense for what you do.
Yeah, but you get people like that. I was talking to Mark Devlin. Mark Devlin's a very good friend of mine, and we have this whole thing where you've got the folks out there that they really want you to be their mouthpiece for them. And that's what I found, with the work that I do. I mean, I'm not saying this is pervasive, but you get enough of them, So, I mean, what's it been like for you as far as dealing with YouTube comments and stuff like that? I mean, is it predominantly very good, or do you have your fair share of the haters and that type of thing there?
It's been better, I think better than most. I thought it would be a little bit worse. It is bad sometimes. I mean, you get a bunch of crap once you get over a certain size channel, no doubt. I think my last video, somebody said, choke on a you-know-what, like a man. I mean, I got that in the last video, okay? And then right below it, like, 2 down was like, brilliant analysis. It's all over the place. But, it was a little bit better than I thought for me. I don't know. I don't know why that is, but I didn't get a ton of those really horrific comments when I got into this. I'd say it's just right around in the 5 to 7% range. That's not great, and that's 95% good. So I'll take it.
Yeah, good. Now it's probably about the same thing for me. It's just that I don't know. I guess I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here. It's the discourse to me sometimes that is really disconcerting. But you just have to come to grips, I guess, with the fact that not everybody is on the same page, clearly. And I'm not just talking about the topics. I'm talking about just a level of maturity to be able to have civil discourse. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that society itself, Matt, has been completely dumbed down to the point where, that type of behavior where people are very belligerent and nasty, it's acceptable, in a lot of circles within society.
I don't want to say the worst in terms of getting those types of comments, because I've always been very neutral on the topic, and I feel already I have to clarify very quickly what I'm about to say, or the wrath of the flat Earth will come right back to me. You know what? The flat Earth argument is brilliant in many ways. It's eye-opening, but I've always been neutral on it. I just don't. Do I believe what NASA's presenting us is real? Of course not. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke what NASA has presented us in many regards. I know, rocket goes up. After that, I don't know what the hell's going on. A rocket goes up. SpaceX, they put a sports car into space. Give me a break.
Right.
It's a joke. But I don't like I've done this in my videos. Less filling tastes great. Between less filling and tastes great, there's probably an infinite number of possibilities. Because I'm a matrix, I lean towards matrix reality. Well, if it is some sort of quantumly fluid reality, matrix reality, whether the reality's been hijacked by an AI or whatever, why couldn't it present all the evidence that the flat earthers need to think that, and present all the evidence that Stephen Hawking would need to think ball? It could present to you both at the same time what you want to see. So there's a lot of possibilities. I just don't like don't give me 2 doors, dude. Don't give me 2 doors.
Yeah.
We've learned a little bit. Maybe, I would like the flat earth to start with saying what NASA's saying over here is total bullcrap. And then let's look at possibilities. Toroidal, flat, but don't just give me one or the other. I mean, even, toroidal or concave. I mean, I'll entertain all of that. But, the people that watch my channel that stick with me know that has not been my interest. My interest is the control structure.
Yep.
Who George Bush reported to in the back room, I'm fascinated by. I'm mostly fascinated by what we have never figured that out. And I'm almost thinking we're never going to figure it out because we haven't figured it out. What this world is it doesn't interest me as much. Now, I know what the flat earthers would say, and many are getting upset with me now. Yes, if we could prove it, then of course it would open the eyes of billions as to what else have they been lying to us about. No doubt that is a very valid argument and to push the flat earth. But it doesn't interest me as much as, and what fascinates me is who Dick Cheney came and handled that little puppet. George Bush,
right?
He was a handler. Obama, what a joke, little puppet. Who the handlers of these people? Trump, he's not real. None of this is real. Who reports to the people in the back room, and who's back there in the dark? That fascinates me, and I'm surprised we are no closer to getting that information. We have more potential culprits. We have Colonel Mustard in the study. We have Miss Scarlet. We have all the culprits.
Yeah.
But we're no closer in determining who done it, with the lead pipe. That's what's fascinating me, and that's also something that brings me back to Matrix hijacked hologram. Because if it is, then it can do whatever they want with us. Well, Matt, if it was Matrix, I say in my videos, well, Matt, if it's Matrix hologram, well, then why would they make obvious mistakes in 9/11, like leave a tire inflated at the bottom of the North Tower? I don't know. But there's a reason for those mistakes. I don't know. That all gets into the fascination of what this realm is.
Well, that's a question I had for you, is do you have some thoughts on what this realm might be? Is it a simulation? Is it,
Yeah, I contemplate it. I'm not ever going to be in the realm of really exploring the esoteric like Jack Hart, and I don't even understand. I'm not even smart enough to understand some of his blogs. Really talks about the Glocker, and he loses me. I have to read it like 3 times. But my best estimation from again, what I do is I can kind of read a little bit of the Matrix code at this point, and I can sniff out the bullshit of what the control structure throws at us. To me, I do favor some sort of simulation. Even, well, let me just say what I think, I'm very similar to the Overwatch channel. Some sort of Matrix simulation that was put here for a purpose, for a good purpose, for a just purpose. A long time ago, something hijacked it. That's where I am. So I don't know much about Saturn Moon Matrix, Saturn, the AI heart of the malevolent simulation that projects through the moon, and I don't know that. I'm interested in that. That resonates with me. Reality, simulation. We were immoral conscious. Come here to do something. Come here to experience something. Something malevolent hijacked it, and that's why there's so many things that don't add up. There's a list of. Let me just mention this to you, Mike. Years ago, I did this, and I told people to do this, and I still recommend you do this. I grabbed a scrapbook, journal books from elementary school, and every time I heard an impossible fact while I was here in the home office, I was listening to something, I wrote it down. And the book filled up like in a year, completely filled up. And there's just so many impossible synchronicities that's why I still favor illusion or Matrix. Just the Abraham Lincoln to John F. Kennedy synchronicities are so 1 in billions that all those things could match up. That the last video I made was on the eclipse. There's 3 things about the eclipse that's like impossible. Yeah. So how, when people, like in the past when I would say about the synchronicities, and there's 30 I found between John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln. Just stuff that would blow your mind, and I don't have the list in front of me, but it's just.
No, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
If you had 10 of them, it would be a 1 in a billion, and there's 30. Just those coincidences alone. But people then would come say to me, Matt, look, you do realize how powerful the control structure is. But then I say the eclipse. Okay, whoever George Bush reported to likely ain't controlling that. That's just the fact that one object fits over the other. Considering all the variables, it's 1 in billions minimum. And then you have the tiny little umbra that passes over the Earth. The law of shadows breaks down.
Yep. You've
got those weird reflections under trees, which is an image cast under trees. If you combine those 3 things with the eclipse, it's almost approaching like 1 in a trillion. So when you get to those levels, I always say, what's your threshold? It's something else is going on. Some sort of illusion is being presented to us, because the celestial movements, when it gets into 1 in hundreds of billions, that's not the control structure doing that, I don't think.
So what do you think then our purpose is? And I say our, people who are in the alternative research community or the truth community, attempting to wake people up. So, what do you think that? Are we wasting our time, or are we really actually trying to affect something?
It does seem futile at times. We're in a race. I mean, I think we are in a race, and the race is nearing. I hate to say it, nearing its end. Now, its end, that could be 3 more generations, 5 more. That's still close to the end, considering how long potentially all this has been going on. So we're in a race, and I do believe that. I do believe in people that say, at least collectively, human consciousness influences or affects reality. So as people trying to get others to see the way things really are, or at least to see the basics of the control structure, that if there was my friend in the UK, Ian Moore, said, collectively, human consciousness at a certain critical mass can actually change our reality. So that's what we're trying to do. Everyone we can recruit is like a little bit more. It's like recruiting another Jedi. It's like one more person that the strength of what we're trying to do becomes greater. But when I say we're in a race, they're all this talk of transhumanism and the chipping the brain. Just a few generations from now, it might be the point of no return. I mean, that's what's so scary. If we are in a recycling center and you are interested in Saturn Moon Matrix, and we've done this before, well, the scary thing is two more recycles, your last 2 of the last 1,000, you come in and you're chipped as after they imprint your soul as a baby, an infant, they chip you, and then you're done, and then you don't have the ability. So that's like the point of no return, and that's very scary.
Yeah, what is disconcerting to me is that the people good folks trying to awaken people, they can't even agree on things that they should agree on, or maybe just agree to disagree and converge on the goal line or a like objective. There's just so much fighting and arguing within the community itself, and I'm using the word community, folks, loosely. Whereas the controllers, they have a very unified front. And what a lot of folks don't understand is, in fact, I had this conversation with 2 friends the other day, and I said to them, we live in a place where you are a slave. And they just looked at me, and they kind of just stepped back a little bit. And I know exactly what ran through their mind. Well, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave,
It's a brave new world.
Yeah. I was trying to explain to them, giving them some examples, some very easy examples. Well, they take 40 cents out of every dollar, right? I mean, it's your money. You're out working for it. Why aren't you keeping that 40 cents on a dollar? Why isn't it all going into your pocket? You have a home, right? You pay your home off. You start to pay property taxes, because property taxes is a perpetual lien on your land. And if you don't pay it, not only are they going to take your land, but they're going to take the house that you think that you own. So I was giving them some examples, But that's the issue that I have, that I see, is that there's just a lot of bickering and a lot of disharmony amongst the truth community, where they throw rocks at each other. And, if I were on the other side, on the dark side, looking at us, I'd be laughing. I would be thinking to myself, these guys can't get out of their own way.
Well, 2 things, Mike. One is they've absolutely infiltrated the community.
Right.
So half the rocks are slung by them. It's more infiltrated than we can imagine.
Yep.
And why, it doesn't, it's very simple to see. If you have if you're sitting on $1 trillion infrastructure and millions of employees or people, it wouldn't be hard to plant a few thousand into YouTube and a few 3,000 or 4,000 into Facebook. I mean, it's not, and you have unlimited deep pockets. It's easy to see why they're able to cause whatever disruption or infighting that they do. That being said, I agree with what you were saying earlier, that at least we could have we could write a new page of our Constitution every day and have the 5 things we agree on, and then we agree on these 6 things.
Right.
And number 7 we're going to add is we all agree that 19 hijackers didn't do it. Let's just agree there and form a list of what we all agree on. And in the areas where we don't agree, less filling, tastes great, flat, whatever, then at least we would say, let's have a cordial discussion, like you said. But you're right, we don't back up and say, what are the 10 things we agree on, and try to expand that out. Like you were saying earlier also, just people think that, I can get up at 3 a.m. and drive to 7-Eleven and get hot dogs rolling around, and I have the ability to go out without papers. I'm completely free. And it's like a buffet. It's like a really bad buffet that serves 3 different types of food. Like a spaghetti, a stromboli, and like a bad chicken sandwich. And you can fill up on as much as you want, but go out. If you go outside that box that the buffet feeds you, then see how quickly your freedom breaks down.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying before too, and some of the flat earthers, and I have good friends in the FE community. They're not going to probably like what I'm going to say, but I've been asked a couple of times. They said, "Well, Mike, don't you agree that the flat Earth is the most important conspiracy that we need to look into?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." And
I agree.
And then they just take a step back. They said, "What do you mean? It's where we live and everything else." I said, "Look, there's a lot of stuff out there." I said that if you take a look at it, it's very important. We could take a look at the whole pharmaceutical industry and vaccines and flu shots as an example of what they're directly injecting into your body. We can make a whole thing out of that, and you just pick any one of these big time conspiracies. And once you start to dig into it, you could see that each one, by itself has an enormous impact on humanity. So, you were saying before, don't give me 2 doors, right? That's how I am too. It's like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff.
The chipping, a few videos back, I started investigating this Ray Kurzweil again, who 10 years ago was talking about transhumanism. And I think people have it a little wrong. I mean, he's not really said that they're going to put your consciousness onto a computer as much as he said we're going to be enhanced like the Borg with chips.
Right.
And then he's saying how wouldn't it be great to be able to go into the cloud and get be able to perform 52 million times, 36 million minus whatever, all these great computations, and you could just use your chip to access the cloud. And isn't that going to be wonderful? And based on what you were saying earlier about what's most important, once they convince people that chip comes at the moment of birth, right after the vaccine array, it's over. It's over. We're done as a species.
Right.
Even if they allow us to, the chip's great. We can order movie tickets that I can get Fandango through the chip. Even if for a generation, then they'll flip a switch. At some point, it's over.
Right.
So the chip, I don't come from a classic religious background. I try to stay neutral because a lot of my channel is very Christian. I stay neutral on it. But we agree in one area, never take that chip. They're never going to put a damn chip in my body. And that's the thing with the vaccines is they could be putting chips in you don't even know. Smart dust, whatever.
Right.
So
well, this is what I say about we talk about the vaccines, right? So the stuff that they're spraying in the sky, we really, at the end of the day, we don't know all that's in those aerosols. But when you hear the 3 big ones, barium, strontium, and aluminum, but there's other stuff. So, it's multifaceted, man. It's if people are going to be resistant to vaccines, as an example, they'll just put whatever it is they were going to inject in your body, just spray it in the air, in the sky, and you'll breathe it.
Exactly. Who knows, what's already there. At some point, they're just not ready, but at some point I fear when the switch gets flipped, or who knows. There's also, again, we talked about the reality bubbles, and what I said earlier, like certain people just can't even see a certain reality.
No.
And, I'm not saying, though, in their reality that 19 hijackers really did it. It doesn't go that far. They're just blind in those areas, but there's just certain things it's just they can't see. And back to, I know, again, some people hate Mandela effect conversations, but if I could just say one other thing, I have observed people get the download. And see, we don't get a lot of evidence as to what exactly is going on. So when you get a fingerprint, you have to really use it to solve the case. And I've had had enough people confirm with me over many, many years, and I saw it happen with a friend of mine he's had a big corporate job. Let me just tell you guys what happened, even if you don't like the Mandela effect, because if people are getting the download, this is just one more thing we can use to figure out reality. So I asked them all the questions. I said, well, if they build it, who will come? Oh, they will come. Interview with a vampire, life is like all the same things. He answered exactly the way I would say I wanted him to answer. And then I said, there's something called the Mandela effect. All the answers you gave were wrong. And then it was like the conspiracy script started to run in his brain. And it started to come back that, oh yeah, Matt, oh yeah, he's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, this is coming through that same vein of conspiracy. And then I saw him change all his answers.
Yep.
He said, well, you know what? I think come to think of it, it's, if you build it, he will come. And I saw him change his answers. And there was a guy who I was with who's not in our circles, but he's much more open to all this stuff. Very open-minded guy, has a corporate job, but he doesn't sit and ponder this stuff like a reality junkie like I do. But I said, did you see the download? He's like, yeah. He just changed all his answers for no reason, like an antenna went out of his ear. There's something to that.
Yep.
And I've heard enough people talk about that as well. But that you can relate that back to 9/11. Why do we see it so clearly and they can't see it? I think it's all related. And somebody right now listening to this screaming at their computer or at the podcast is going, because Matt, the mind control is already taken over. And yeah, it is. It probably is. And it's way past the subliminals that were, at the end of at 2 a.m. in 1975 when the channels would go off and they'd play the Star Spangled Banner. It's much more sophisticated than that. Why we're immune to it? I don't know. But maybe it's like, it's like the scene in They Live that they'll, these things will start pointing at us soon and say, that one can see. So I don't know, but they're all related. All these topics are related.
I agree. I say that people, the term I use is that they are artificially intelligenced. What they do is they actually defend the Matrix, or we can refer to it, I should say, as the Borg. So, in other words, it's exactly as you just explained, Matt, where somebody will, all of a sudden they go into defense. They play defense. And they become defensive, and they start actually falling back into the Matrix, into the programming. And it's as if, like you said, there's something in their mind, little program starts clicking off and saying, okay, now you need to respond this way. You need to push back. You need to go into denial. You need to start calling him names, And I've seen it.
The script runs. The script starts to
Yep.
run. And we don't know whether it's completely. See, you can still say the script runs, even if it's a hologram or Neo's Matrix, or it's more of a physical world. The script still can run. This still can happen because the script could be embedded in a 4K television.
Yep.
Who do you know where the script comes from? But we can agree on this. The script will run in people's, and maybe my friend didn't get an actual Wi-Fi signal. Maybe the script was already embedded in him, that Mandela effect, conspiracy, reject everything, everything that is about to be said. Even, that script could have been laid down on him a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think that some of us are immune to it. There's a point in which we woke up, and well, this is what happens with me. I woke up. What woke me up actually was 9/11, after believing it, like many, many, many other people. And also the moon landings. That was something else that I had looked into and was quickly coming to the conclusion that they were completely hoaxed. But then what happens, I think, Matt, is that we stay away from their influences. We stay away from their traps. We stay away from their hypnosis on the television. We stay away from their movies. We stay away from their vaccines. We don't drink their fluoridated water. So there's all these things that we start to do. And I think the way that you stay off their wagon and you don't ride their train is that you essentially shut them off. I mean, and that's what I have done. Because I have people all the time who say to me, hey, Mike, do you watch this TV series on television? It's on HBO or Showtime, whatever it may be. I look at them like, I don't watch that stuff. I don't watch it. And they look at me like, oh, are you kidding me, dude? I mean, that's like the best show that's ever been made. I'm like, I don't watch it. I occupy my time in much better, more productive ways.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I told my channel that a year ago, it was less than a year ago, I got to smart TV. By the word, anything coded with smart is the system laying down that's the code word.
Yep.
That this is a either a mind control device or something we're going to monitor you with. That's what smart anything is. That's they came up with that term, not retailers selling washing machines. I got it's not a 4K TV, but I got the smart TV for the Netflix and all that. And I asked people on the channel, I said, if you see a change in me, let me know. And there's been no change in me as far as I'm aware at all. In fact, I see the script is even more ridiculous. And then there's some other things that I watch movies and TV and some other things. I participate in the Matrix in certain ways. So I don't know, it's not that I have to, I don't think I do have to avoid it. I don't think it would. I used to watch a ton of news because of the old channel.
Yeah.
I would break down ridiculous North Korean news stories. What's happening today that's totally made up. And, so I watched it. I was engrossed in under the old channel, and it didn't change my viewpoint. So,
well, I agree with you that there is a certain level of it that you do have to engage in order to do the work that we do. I mean, this is some things I have to pay attention to because otherwise, I don't know what I would be putting up on the blog because I'm trying to get a point across on the blog. So in order to make that point, I have to understand, the issues that are trying to be forced down our throats. Yeah, no, what I was saying was that, some people are just chomping at the bit, always going to the movies, sitting in front of the television all the time, watching cable news incessantly. That's where I was going with it. I probably didn't express it that way.
That's a trap. That's a trap. I mean, my friend Greg he has a family member that is just Fox News. He's trapped in that pen. And, conservatism has conservatism is the first baby step towards truth. It really is.
Yep.
And not everybody, most people, 99% can't break out of that pen. But it is the first step towards truth. It's 3.8 trillion a year. Well, what do we get at? What do we get for that if we're under 65? Nothing. We get roads and schools. No, we don't. That's done on the state. You get nothing for 3.8 trillion a year. So conservatism is the first little sniff that something's not quite right. Now, again, most people don't break out, but I hate to say it, liberalism on the other side. I mean, obviously, trust me, folks, R versus D, that's not real. It's all one power structure. We know that. But people that are active liberals that do the women's marches, they are gone. They don't even smell that something's wrong. That's weird. That is bizarre.
Yep.
That people, at least the conservatives will bitch about the government in front of their television as they used to watch O'Reilly. Something's not quite right, but on the other side, the people that actually look forward to like the Rachel Maddow show, they're gone. These people are gone.
Yeah, and it's interesting, recently how everybody was on board. It didn't matter whether they were Republicans or Democrats with throwing bombs over in Syria or doing whatever it is that we're saying we're doing in Syria. I know some will argue that nothing's going on, it's all theater. But my point being is, whether it's real or not, both sides are in the same bed. And they're all cheering it on, Whereas classic liberalism, going back many years ago, decades ago, I mean, they would be the anti-war voices, right? They would be front and center, right, speaking about it. And you don't hear that anymore. You really don't hear that anymore.
I mean, what we're saying is we're agreeing that even the R&D ridiculous false paradigm never existed. But even in the old days, it kind of made sense because you had the people, George Bush killing babies in Iraq, and at least it made. Now it's like it doesn't even make sense that their viewpoints. They'll just go do a women's march, and at the end of the march, say, "Well, why did you march?" And they won't even be able to tell you.
Right.
They won't even be able to really describe what the hell they're doing. It's just It's like The Walking Dead. I mean, the mind control has to be being ramped up. I mean, there's really not a lot of other ways to explain it away.
Yeah, and plus obviously all of these marches, like the Women's March, these are all orchestrated and engineered, and they get a bunch of useful idiots to go out there and dress up and with signs and shout, and they don't even know what they're shouting about. They have no idea. And this is really a sad state of affairs, and it's sad commentary on where we are at from a societal and a cultural perspective. And I'm sorry, folks, if this sounds like, Mike's being like a rain cloud here, but yeah, I'm just speaking my mind with regard to being in this all the time and keeping a pulse on this stuff, the reality of the situation is, when you take a look around, this is what's going on. You have a lot of people who are not critically thinking. They're just not. I mean, they're going along with the program, or the very worst case is they're extremely apathetic. They can care less. They're not interested at all in what's going on around them.
I mean, my channel's always been a bit, dark. I mean, it really, I think we should focus on positive whenever we can, but it's always been a bit dark. But, it is, when I say race against time, I don't know how, it really is. It's a race. It's like 26 miles. It's the last mile. I mean, I was put here to do all I could.
Yep.
And I know what my role is. I think I'm gonna be, on my deathbed, I'm gonna say I did all I could to I call it putting chips back into our soul or our spirit. I'm trying to gather all the chips I gave away. I'm trying to get some back, and that's what my role is. And not everyone's role is the same, but everybody needs to understand what their role is if they give a crap about our state of affairs. And it's not good. It really isn't good right now.
No, it's not. And I agree with you, Matt. I want to be able to go through this lifetime and, the day that I'm not here anymore, for people to say, well, Mike did all he could do. And he worked hard at trying to get people to see things that the other side was trying to get them not to see. So I think it's very important, the work that you're doing and the work that so many others are doing to bring the light in. And like we were saying, folks, sometimes it gets a little dark, it gets a little heavy. But you know what? Sometimes it's okay for people who are doing the work that Matt's doing or I'm doing and others are doing to talk about some of the darker aspects of this or the heaviness of it, because that's what we're up against. That's what we're battling. You try to put the best face you can, to be as optimistic as you possibly can on any given day, certainly with any show. But I think that every once in a while you do need to, it has to be frank talk. You have to talk about what it is that we're up against and what it is that we're trying to turn around, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a conflict that I'm in with a lot of people right now. I mean, we're all in the same boat together and we're all in conflict because people come to me and say, well, every time you focus on who George Bush reports to or you're giving them power, they're feeding off frequency. That's another thing we didn't talk about. I do believe that there's something feeding off a certain frequency. That there's almost, I have no direct evidence of it, but when there's no way to explain certain things, I mean, they're feeding off fear, feeding off anger, feeding off conflict. I was going to say that people would say, well, you're giving power to it. And there's some truth to that too. But we talk about, or people I share comments with, doing it in the right way. People would say under the new channel, I laugh about it more. The old Texas Shrugged channel was way more dark and serious. I laugh about it more. I'll say that, look at what that little fat man did in North Korea. The little fat man's up to it again.
Yeah.
Kim Jong UN, Kim Jong United Nations.
If he's even real.
So it's, look at that little puppet. So I try to get a little bit more laugh at it because the script is more ridiculous. The script, I mean, maybe someone would say, Matt, the script under George Bush Cheney was just as ridiculous. But to me, it wasn't. I mean, I can look back on it and say it was a script, but it was much more serious and much better presented. Not presented like the real actors were presenting, not the scabs.
Yeah.
The people, the fill-in actors are presenting now. It's like reality can't present itself as well. That's breaking down too. It's becoming more of a joke. It's becoming more ridiculous and pathetic. So I encourage people to see that aspect. And also we talked about, or at least I exchanged some information with some people recently, just making your intentions. I'm going to talk about the control structure. I think proclaiming intention, there's something to that in this reality. I give no power to the control structure by talking about it. I give them none of my energy. My energy is mine. Whatever thing's trying to suck my energy, you can't have it. I don't think there's something to it. And I don't come from that side. All these people on YouTube they're dark magicians and they talk about Odin, and I don't have any of that background. But it just resonates with me that we are a lot more powerful than the dumbed down version of human that 2018 brings. We're like, we're the version, maybe it's possible we were even, our DNA was screwed with at some point.
Right.
So I think sometimes just proclaiming your intention or just in general, like, I'm not giving any more of my energy to the dark ones. I think there's something to that, but I don't have the background to say how that would work.
I agree with you, Matt. I agree with you. You have to have the intention, and your thoughts create reality. And, when we focus on certain things, we're focusing on it not necessarily to give them more power, but to be able to call it out and then to make observations or recommendations and suggestions about what is going on and how, at least this is what I do, is to now let's steer our thoughts in a different direction, in a positive direction. And we have to understand what's going on. You have to understand how it is that you're being duped. You have to. Because if you don't understand that, you're never going to break out. You're just going to stay there. So I have to do a piece of work that says, okay, this is how you're being deceived. So now, you get it? Okay, good. Now, this is where we need to be. This is where we need to move to. So that's the intention part. And I agree, and I tell folks the intention, the next step is you have to make it kinetic. You have to put it into action. You have to walk the talk. That's what you have to do. That's very, very important, is to walk the talk.
Well, if I just could, I don't know how much time we have, but I did put out something that was very, very important maybe a month ago, but I've been talking about it, and I kind of put it together, like the 5 steps for, 5 steps for humans. I mean, it sounds, it's not, trust me, it's not as profound as it sounds, but if I could just get it out, I mean, basically, because it ends with that action step. That's why I thought of it. It ends with that action step. I mean, step 1 is just getting people to see this reality is not what was intended. And anybody for 2 seconds can look around and say, constant war, death, disease, march for the cure. There's no cures of any disease in the last 40 years. Okay, this reality is not what was intended. Most people eventually can see that.
Right.
And maybe some people will only get to step 1, but that's not bad. But if you get to step 1, then step 2 is obvious. Then something screwed with the reality. Something hijacked it. Okay?
Yep.
And now step 3 is, well, something changed reality. Was the change good for mankind, or was it good for the Rothschilds? Well, obviously, it wasn't good for us collectively. Like, 50 people control half the world's wealth, or, that's probably putting it mildly. So whoever hijacked it did it for them, not for us. That's 3. 4 is the trap where they want us trapped. 4 is then, well, who screwed with me? Who did it? Who did it? Was it Archons, interdimensional aliens, Nephilim, Rothschild, the Rosicrucians, and Illuminati? So they want us trapped at step 4. Just finding out who did it, who done it. That's where I think they give away some of these mistakes on purpose, or some of the ridiculousness in the 9/11 story. They want us just in pen 4 forever. But pen 5 says, who gives a crap who did it? We'll never know, because we'd know by now. So step 5 is, whenever the system gives you its fruit, or gives you its drugs, or the pusher pushes something in your face, walk the other way. And you can't live on it, like the same thing I've used over and over again of subscribers that I'll eventually, point them to your channel and have them listen to this. But I've said it many times. You can't just go on a box and live at the top of a mountain. But you can recognize a manifestation or symptom of the system and walk the other way, like Black Lives Matter to blacks and African Americans. That is something that's there to get you pissed off. Okay? It doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. Of course, it's always going to exist on all sides. But that is a manipulation of the system. And you can choose to participate in it, or give it no power and attention. And we all have to choose the other door and run the other way. And you have to think there's a critical mass of people that if you starve out the system, we will eventually start to win a little bit. Now, even that's just choices in our own life. Should you take the kids on vacation? Yeah. But take them to the beach. Don't take them to Disney World.
Right.
That's a choice.
That's right.
Don't get the new Corvette. Do something else with the money. There are little choices all of us can make that collectively can add up to a lot.
I agree. Absolutely. And Matt, this was a video that you did?
Well, I've been talking about that. Yeah, I think it's still out there. It's like the path to 5-step path for humanity. I think
okay.
It's
so I'm going to add it to the link in the description box.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
It just, I like bringing things back to common sense and simplicity too. And that's just a simple area where we all can agree.
All right. Well, Matt, this has been a great discussion, as I knew it would be. Again, I really appreciate you coming on and having the discussion. And aside from your YouTube channel, Quantum of Conscious, are there other websites or other social media outlets that people can catch up with you on?
Nope. Just that's all. I probably appear on Facebook. I haven't posted in years, and no, just come to the YouTube, and I'll keep doing this as long as I can.
Okay.
Well, quantum of con science. I wrote it like the book is Quantum of Con Science, not conscience. Written
okay.
That way, yeah. But more conscience, more like a moral dilemma versus.
So it's Quantum of Con Science.
Yeah, that's the way it's written.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Separate words.
So, Matt, again, thank you so much. And you can come back anytime. Anytime you feel like having a discussion, whatever, just email me and we'll schedule some time and we'll just shoot the shit and talk about how we can improve the world.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. Anytime, my man.
All right, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.
And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are listed in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.
It's